Hello, friends. Good morning. Today, I will make this series. From today, I'll make this series of lessons on my book, Driving Theory for Belgium Made Simple, a complete guide for passing the theory exam. So here's my book on Amazon.nl, but I will start today with the first chapter. So let me quickly switch over to the first chapter. So the first chapter will be Introduction to Traffic Boards. So let's get started. So Introduction to Traffic Boards, general rules. Always pay attention and follow the traffic boards. So it's important. Later, we will see when to follow the traffic boards, when to ignore the traffic boards. But the general thing is you should always pay attention to the boards and follow them. We classify traffic boards into 6 categories. So there are warning boards, priority boards, obligatory boards, prohibitory boards, parking boards, and information boards. Let me quickly minimize this. So if I scroll down, general rules for traffic boards. Traffic signs or traffic boards are usually placed on the right. So it's very important. Sometimes they might be repeated above the lane and might also be repeated on the left side of the road, but they must be placed on the right side of the road. Generally, there are some traffic boards that are exception to this. We will talk about those later, but it's a general rule. If there is no traffic board on your right side, if it is only on your left side, then you can ignore the traffic board. So in traffic, the traffic signs or traffic boards are placed on the right because why? Why are they placed on the right? Because the vehicles drive on the right hand side of the road. So here's an illustration that for the blue car, the traffic board is placed on the right. That's the begin of the built-up area. And for the red car, it's also placed on the right. Maybe it's end of built-up area. Imagine placing this board on the left, and the driver of the blue car has to look every time on the left for the traffic board. It's not convenient, right? So that's why the traffic boards are always placed on the right, because we ride or we drive on the right side of the road. So here are 2 illustrations where traffic boards are repeated on the left. So here's an example. It's placed on the right, 70 kilometers of speed limitation, and again repeated on the left. Why it's repeated on the left? Because the road is wide, and someone driving on the left lane might not be able to see the board on the right. That's why sometimes it's repeated on the left, or in this case, you can see it's repeated on the top of the lane. So that's why they repeat it, but it must be placed on the right for you if it applies to you. It is important to note that if there is no traffic board on your right, then the regulation does not apply to you. So here's an example. On the right, we don't see a traffic board putting a limitation on the speed. On the left, suppose you're driving on this lane, on your left, there is a speed limitation of 50 kilometers per hour. This definitely does not apply to you. This applies to the vehicles driving on this lane, on the left side of the traffic board. So on this lane, if you're driving already on this lane, then you will continue to drive with whatever speed you have been driving, right? So let's say you have been driving at 70 kilometers per hour, you continue to drive with that speed, and you can ignore this traffic board because there is no traffic board to your right. So next, these are the general rules or general things about traffic boards, and we will talk about these boards more in detail as we move through the different chapters. Circular board. Let's look at this. Circular board with red border indicates mostly prohibitions. For example, speed limit, a prohibition, entry prohibition, prohibition to turn right or left. So just remember this. Any circular board. The first thing is any circular board is important. But if a circular board looks red, let's say this one is full red, this one has a red border, this one also has a red border. So any circular board with a red border or has red color to it, that means it's a prohibition. You must not do something. And if you do something here, I mean, what is not allowed, then it becomes an offense, right? So very, very important that you pay very close attention to circular board, which is red. So anything red is always important. Later, we will see triangle boards with red border. So that's also important, but that has different rules, regulations. But any circular board with a red border or red color to it is important, and that's a prohibition. So you must not do something there. Okay. Again, as I said, blue boards, circular boards are important. So here's another circular board, but this time it's a board which does not have red color, but a blue color. This is also important. Here again, you must do something. Yeah, with red color, you must not do something. A blue color is an obligation, which means you must do something. And interestingly, very interestingly, blue color boards are placed where they are best visible. So they are not placed on the right, they are not placed on the left or center, but they are placed where they are best visible. So maybe in the center of the road, like in this case, they have placed the blue board on the elevated verge in the central of the in the center of the road. So here they have placed the blue board right in front of you, which shows that you must make a left turn here, and this says you must follow the lane from here. Okay, so blue boards, circular boards are, so you must do something. So again, I repeat myself, red a circular board is very important to pay attention to. Next, as we proceed, rectangular blue boards are usually helpful information boards. You may follow it, ignore it, depends on your situation. So these boards, as you can see, two examples, these are blue rectangular boards. So it's up to you if you want to pay attention to it or you want to ignore it. So what happens if you ignore it? You might have to probably make some extra kilometers again to come back if you to go to, let's say, Herentals in this case, if you miss this board. Here again, it says, okay, this is a one-way street. Okay, you ignored, you didn't see the board, so still what? You will still continue. You are allowed to continue driving. It's just that you will not see any traffic coming from the opposite direction, right? So blue boards are helpful information boards, blue rectangular boards, right? So what are the exceptions to general rules? Obligatory boards may be placed where they are best visible. So these are round blue boards. These are obligatory boards where it says you must do something. They may be placed on the right, they may be placed on the left or in the middle of the road. So where they are best visible. So if you have seen this road works, wherever there is road work happening, they would have placed these blue boards right at the place where the road works are happening, indicating, okay, go from here. There's an arrow on the blue board indicates go from this side. In the next section, we will see how to identify these different boards. So very important and very interesting. And once you know this, you will be able to answer a lot of questions in the exam. Just looking at the board, you know what the board is about. You can rule out some options and you can just select the right option directly. Okay, so let's look at, as you can see here, we will talk about all these boards here. So first we start with the warning board. A warning board indicates danger situation to pay attention to. Okay. As I said, anything red is important, is kind of danger, is kind of you must pay attention to. So warning boards are usually triangular shaped with red border. As you can see here, these are triangular shaped with red border, placed usually at 150 meters before the actual place of danger, unless indicated by a blue plate below the board. So why is it placed 150 meters before the danger place? To make you aware that there is something at 150 meters, and if you're not careful, then it might result in an accident. So that's why it's placed at 150 meters. So you should remember this. Warning boards are placed by default at 150 meters before the actual place of danger, right? And like in the left photo, as you can see, there are children present on the road. That's what it indicates. But it also gives a blue plate, says already that it's at 150 meters. So let's say the blue plate was not there, which meant that even uh, if the blue plate was not there, which meant that at 150 meters from here, there are children on the road. So pay attention to that. Again, on the right photo, it's a slippery road, but here clearly it indicates at 150 meters because there is no blue plate. So there might be situations where they might say, okay, instead of 150 meters, they might just put 50 meters or 100 meters. Then you know, okay, at 50 meters, there's a danger situation. So I must pay attention to that, right? Let's move on. Those are warning boards. Remember triangle boards with red border. Now let's go to priority boards. Priority boards indicate who has priority at the next junction or next cross point or next crossroads. So these are all the common terms. These boards look like warning boards. So yes, look at this board, an example. It looks very much like a warning board, a triangle with a red border. But these are not warning boards, and these indicate the priority at the next junction, at the next cross point. It's important to remember. So now you see this board. So the next junction is here, right? So who has priority here? That's what these boards show. So one of the way you can identify this board is that it will look like a warning board, but then there will be one thick line and multiple one or more inlines inside it. So you should read this board always from bottom to top. Boards are always read bottom to top or left to right. Okay, so you must read this from bottom to top, which means the thick line indicates your road. So the road that you are on. So it means that you are on a priority road here. The bottom blue plate indicates gives more information, exactly the curve of the road, etc., etc. So, but okay, this is a priority board at the next junction. Priority board can also look like a triangle, inverted triangle. This we call it as a shark teeth. So this also is a priority board, which shows that you must give priority to the other vehicles on the road before before proceeding at this junction. So in addition to the triangle and inverted triangle, there is also a stop board, a very peculiar six shaped board, which is a stop board. And this is very important to pay attention to because you must, when you see this board, you must stop and give priority to all the vehicles. So even during exam, when you're doing practical exam, you must come to a full stop. There is no way, there is no excuse. You can say, okay, there's no traffic, so I'll drive slowly. No, You must come to a full stop even if there are no vehicles, and then only proceed. That's what the stop board means, right? So where do you stop? You either stop at the white line. So in this case, white line on the road. In this case, there's no white line. So you will stop before the board, right? It's not that you stop after the board. You must stop before the board. But you can, once you have stopped, full stop, and then you can proceed slowly and then, make sure that still the vehicles are not coming and then make your turns or cross the junction. So as you can see in this example, these two black cars, they must stop and give priority to the other vehicles on the road. So they must allow the gray car um, to go first before they can cross the junction. The next is obligatory boards. These traffic boards must be compulsorily followed. We have discussed this. These are blue round boards. A round board, so just remember this, a round board is important to pay attention to. It is usually prohibitive with a red border or obligatory a blue board. So obligatory boards are placed where they are best visible. So in this case, see here, the board is placed onto your left, indicating, okay, go from here. And then in this case, it's placed on the right. So it is placed where it is best visible. So in the second photo, it indicates two possibilities for the drivers, either go straight or take right at the next junction. They are not allowed to turn left. Prohibition boards, these indicate prohibitions, which means things you must not do. These are round boards with red border or full red boards, or red boards with blue background. So anything red on the board, that's and round, and the board is round, it's a prohibition. So examples of prohibition can be like you're not allowed to enter a street, you're not allowed to overtake a vehicle, you must not exceed a certain speed. So till when are the prohibitions in effect? They remain in effect. The prohibition is in effect until the next junction or until there is a new prohibition board, or there is a board which cancels out the prohibition. So remember this, a round board is important to pay attention to. So it's usually a prohibition or an obligation. So as you can see, two boards here. The first one indicates the photo on the left shows prohibition for the vehicles to turn right. And here it shows prohibition to enter the street from this direction. And on the right photo shows that vehicles are prohibited on this street in both directions. So it's a clear prohibition, which means you must not do this. Parking boards. Parking boards indicate where parking is allowed and for whom parking is allowed. These are usually rectangular blue boards. So a rectangular blue board is more of useful information, as we have seen. So if you ignore a parking board, yeah, so what? You don't get parking, but okay, it's not an offense. So in the two photos here, the left photo shows that you see both the boards have big P in it, and which means that these are parking boards. The left photo says you are allowed to park here before and after this traffic board, which is indicated by this white plate, the arrows on the top and the bottom. The maximum allowed time for parking is 30 minutes, and you must park this on the elevated porch. So like this car which is parked. And the photo on the right is parking for less abled drivers. So you need to have a special a special card if you want to park your car in this location. As we move now to the information boards, these are useful, providing useful information. These are rectangular blue boards. So you may use the information, you may ignore it. It's not an offense, but it may delay you. You might not, you might take the wrong lane, etc., etc. So here you can see the information boards on the left photo indicating the lanes that you must select if you want to go in a particular direction. And the photo on the right shows that it's a one-way street. Now we have completed all the 6 boards. Now let's talk about the under plates. These are usually blue or white plates placed below the traffic board. These plates provide extra information on the traffic board. So here you see a board for parking, blue board, information board. Below that we have this blue plate and white plate providing additional information, which means that, for parking, let's say these 2 plates didn't exist, which means that you could have parked here for the entire day and the parking would have been free. But now they put restrictions on that by using these boards, which provide you extra information. They say you are only allowed to park here for a maximum of 30 minutes and you are allowed to park on the both side of the streets. So how do you say you have parked here for 30 minutes? You have to use your blue parking disc to park in this place. So quickly, traffic board summary. Traffic boards are of 6 categories. They are warning boards, which are warning boards, which are triangle red border boards, priority boards, which are also triangle red border boards, but they have one thick line and uh, multiple thin lines. Obligatory board, prohibition boards, these are all obligatory board and prohibition boards. These are round boards. Obligatory is a round blue board. Prohibition are round red boards. Parking boards and information boards. These are rectangle boards, but parking boards will have a big P in it. Traffic boards are usually placed on the right. Why? Because we drive on the right side of the road. And sometimes they may be repeated above a lane or on the left side of the road, except the obligatory round blue board, which is placed where it is best visible. So now I have put here some of the boards that we have described. So let's go through this. So warning boards indicate a danger situation, and these are triangle shaped with red border. These boards are usually placed at 150 meters before the actual danger. So uh, on the left is a warning board which indicates that there is a road bend to the left. So as I already said, the first thing is you must read the board bottom to up. So in this case, you can easily read it bottom to up, which means you're on a road which will bend, where there is a dangerous bend towards the left at a distance of 150 meters. If there's no plate indicating the distance, then by default it is 150 meters. Then there is also a traffic board which indicates that there is a steep downhill. Why is this downhill and why not uphill? Because remember, you either read the board from bottom to top or left to right. Now you cannot read this board from bottom to top, so you have to read it from left to right, which means that it's a downhill. So if you go from left to right, you're going downhill and not uphill. So this is important that it's a downhill with a 7% of downhill. That's the degree of descent, 7%. Next, we go to priority boards. As we said, these are triangle boards with the thick line, and then I forgot to mention that even if there is a cross in the triangle uh, triangle board, then it's also a priority board. So this the left board indicates that you are on a priority road. Sorry, you are, at the next junction you will have priority. It doesn't indicate that you are on a priority road. No, that's a different board. But this one indicates that you have priority at the next junction. So which means that if you keep driving at the next junction, there will be a road coming from right. There you have priority. So every traffic coming from right will either give priority to you or will stop and give priority to you. And then this board indicates that there is priority from right that must be followed. So every vehicle at the next junction must give priority to the vehicle coming from its right. So next we move on to obligatory boards. These boards must be compulsorily must be followed. These are blue round boards. So the left board indicates that you must take a right at the next junction. You're not allowed to go left or go straight. You must compulsorily take right at the next junction. And then this round blue board indicates reserved road for pedestrians and bicyclists, which indicate that this is where this is the part of the road that uh, they must use, right? So that's an obligatory board. So that one is reserved for the bicycles and pedestrians. Prohibitory board, these boards indicate prohibitions, things that must not be done. These are usually round boards with red border or full red boards or red boards with blue background. So on the left is the board which says prohibition for entry of drivers of motor vehicle with more than two wheels in both directions. And then this is a prohibition for parking. So this board indicates that the parking is not allowed. However, waiting might be allowed. So we will come across these boards again uh, later in the lessons, and then we will discuss those individual situations. Parking boards. The parking boards are indicate where parking is allowed and for whom. These are usually rectangular rectangular blue boards. So on the left, this parking board indicates that you are allowed to park here, which is free, but you have to place a parking disc clearly visible. And on the right, the board indicates that you're allowed to park here for free, but you must park on the elevated verge with all the four wheels must be on the verge. Next are the information boards. These are boards which provide useful information and usually rectangular blue boards. So this board on the left indicates the start of a built-up area, and this board indicates the lanes that you may select depending on the direction you have to go, right? So if you want to turn left, you can already select here from the left lane, and if you want to go straight, you can keep your vehicle on the right lane. Stop board, then stop board is next are underplates. These are blue or white plates placed under the traffic boards. These provide more specific information related to traffic board above it. So here there is a stop underplate which says that at 150 meters you must stop and give priority to the other vehicles. And this is a white plate which indicates that the bicycles and speed pedelecs are allowed on this road to move in both directions. So this completes our lesson. Now let's look at some practical exam questions and maybe also tricky questions that you might get in the exam related to this chapter. Okay, so to continue with the exams or practice questions, I will use this website, maindatabase.eu. You can also use this website to practice free. So let's continue. But before we start, what I will do is I would like to ask you to put your comments in the comment section. If you like this video, then I will make more such videos. So if I see a lot of interest, a lot of people liking this and a lot of people commenting, requesting for more videos, then I will definitely go ahead and make the next video. So let's continue with the practice questions. I will try to do around 10 questions. And so let's start with the first one. So this is focusing on what we just learned in the lesson one. It's about the traffic boards. So it says, what is the meaning of this board? So there are three options: one-way direction, priority, give priority, main road. So a triangle, an inverted triangle is a priority triangle. So you can blindly ignore the option A and C because they are not related to priority. So the option B is correct, which means you have to give priority. So at this place, there are three options. Option A says riding in two lanes is allowed. Option B says you are only allowed from the left to right and turn left. Option C says you are allowed from the left as well as right to drive through. So option B is, it's an obligatory sign kind of option, which is a round blue board. So we rule this out. And there is option A is also ruled out because there's no traffic sign which is specific for riding in two lanes. So the option C is correct. You are allowed to ride on the left as well as on the right lane here. So the question is, are you allowed to turn left into the street? Are you allowed to turn left into the street? Now, this is a very interesting question and very tricky also, and maybe it's a 5-mark question. So you see, this is the concept that we spoke about, that you must pay attention to only the board on the right. And if there is no board on the right, it doesn't apply to you. So this board is only on the left. So definitely this doesn't apply to you. You are allowed to turn right. So I'll put yes and yes. So that's our answer. So you're allowed to turn left into this road. The GPS gives that you must turn right. And it says, is that allowed? Is that not allowed? So definitely it's not allowed. Why? Because you see an obligatory blue board which says from here everyone must obligatory compulsorily turn left. So that's correct. So let's move on to the next question. So it says which form has a dangerous, which board gives that it's a dangerous board. So we know a dangerous sign is triangle. That's what it is. So that's right. Our answer is correct. Let's move on to the next question. This traffic sign means what? End of work and work vehicle prohibited. So prohibition is not a prohibition board. That should be a red board, round red board. So it will be either option A or option C because it says end. So you see this red line on the board, which means it's ending something. So end for boats bepaling opgelikt aan het begin Banta Varkan. So it says end of prohibitions which have been imposed on this road from where the work was beginning. So it's end of work. So that's what it is, and nothing more. So when you see this work, when you see this traffic sign, there will be a traffic sign before this which says beginning of road works, end of road works. So it says, are you allowed to drive in this? Are you allowed to drive in this road? Enter this street. So yes, there is no prohibition board. It's definitely a round red board. It's a prohibition board, but remember, any round red board with the blue background, that's a prohibition for parking. So you are not allowed to park from here, but you are definitely allowed to ride into this street. So this one says 150 meters ahead. What is it? It says option A is a station. You can rule this out. It's a warning sign. It's not a station. We will see later that this traffic sign is related to level crossing. So it's not a station, but it will be a level crossing. Option B is a level crossing without gates. So it's a level crossing without gates, and that's what it is. The option C is the trains are allowed to ride on the road. Yeah, this is not the correct. So let's confirm that. So that's the answer. It says, what will that in? What does it mean? What does 13 here on this board means? It means, so all the three says number, and the first option says number for what? For road, for someone who's managing the road. The option B is number of exit, is the exit number. Option C is it's an alternate road, so it's an exit. So if you want to exit, this is the exit number, and you can, that's what the correct answer is. So what does this traffic sign means? It means overweight, level crossing. It says level crossing. No option. Both the options are wrong. So the only option is it's a priority. It's a cross point with priority from rights. We have learned this in the lesson. So this, let me confirm this, and that's ends our first lesson. So as I just mentioned, if you are interested in the next lesson, please put in your comments. And if there is a lot of interest, I will definitely go ahead and make the next lesson. And thank you for watching.